everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimbalo here in Abuja. Well, we've got some very, very interesting national conversations for you tonight, which I'd like you to sit tight. On the other half of the program, there are those who want the EFCC to be scrapped, and there are divergent views on these matters. So we'll be getting some views on that and, of course, on the state of the economy. But our attention tonight, first and foremost, is on the incessant collapse of the power grid, an infrastructure failure that reverberates through the daily lives of millions of Nigerians in an already insufficient power supply system. The ecosystem is already troubled. The past days of seeing frustrating blackout in the nation. There is abundant capacity and potentials of giving its people more electricity, enough to consume, and more than enough, in fact, remaining to give out to neighboring countries. This year has been marked by recurring power disruptions. Nigeria's national grid has experienced multiple collapses, causing widespread outages across the country. These events have raised concerns about the reliability of the nation's energy infrastructure. And tonight we shall be speaking with the managing director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Now, why the Transmission Company of Nigeria? The company that was formed by the government when the government said they want to unbundle the Power Holding Company of Nigeria in an effort to ensure better coordination of electricity transmission in the country. As electricity is generated, transmitted, and then distributed to the consumer, the transmission company is one of the key entities in delivering electricity to the end user, the electricity consumer in Nigeria and its neighbors. Well, if you see any power outage or you find a situation where you hear national grid, the man who is with me tonight is the right man to speak to and to ask the critical question about the national grid collapses in Nigeria. And if it's sufficient, he's also the one that could also speak. Engineer Sule Ahmed Abdulaziz is the managing director and CEO of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. He's live with us right here in Abuja today. It's a pleasure having you tonight, MD.
Thank you very much, sir.
Why are Nigerians experiencing these power grid collapse? Let me show you the dates this year alone that we have noted that we have seen more, a lot of these collapses happen. Just this year alone, if we can put up that quickly. When we've traced from early this year to the mid-year collapses, then October we saw a lot of disruptions in the power grid, and these are some of what a lot of Nigerians may have experienced in what could be described as disruptions or power grid collapses in Nigeria. And if you look at it, in the this is at the available power generation. I don't know what, guys. This is not what I'm asking for. I'm talking about 2024. What has happened this year? The grid collapses. Yes, that's it. The dates that we have seen this year that this has happened. We have the capacity. We know the capacity, and over the years also, we do know how much of these collapses have happened in Nigeria. In fact, there are those who will say over 60 times during the Buhari era, we experienced some collapses. But then, what are the reasons for these collapses? Let's begin. Disruptions, minimum of 3 times alone in the month of October. Why?
Thank you very much, sir. Before I explain this, let me say that the collapse did not, the grid did not collapse 3 times in October. We have two times we have grid disturbances. The first one was on Monday, and the second one was yesterday on Saturday. So there are some news that are saying that the grid again collapsed on Tuesday. That one is not correct. On Monday, we were trying to restore the grid. Then we have some setback, and that is when we have to start all over again. But it wasn't a collapse. Now, if we're talking about the collapse, I believe with you that we're supposed to do better than this. But if you look at the records, the grid collapse has reduced from 2015. If you have all these records, you will see that in the year 2022, even we spent over 1.5 years, there was no any grid collapse. So we are doing our best. We know we have to do more, but at least we are getting to know the issues and we are resolving them one by one.
So if you made reference to the grid collapses, 98 times have been records under the Buhari, 8 years of the Buhari regime. 2017 to 2023, 46 times. 2022, 8 times. That was the year you got into office. 2023, 3 times. Yeah. That's probably the lowest we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, if I'm counting, 8 times, a minimum of 5 times this year alone.
5 times this year?
Yes. February 4, 2024, March 28, 2024, April 15, 2024, July 16, 2024, August 5, 2024, and this year, this month, there are disruptions. You said it's only once or two, thereabout.
Two
times this month. So if you calculate that, so we've seen 6 times of disruptions and power grid collapses this year alone, under your watch.
Yes, sir.
So you have to be blamed?
No, sir. Let's look at this issue, sir. TCN is the one that's in charge of the grid. But if there is a system collapse, it doesn't mean that all the problems are from TCN. It can be from generation, it can be from transmission, and it can be from distribution. And some of these things also can come as a disaster. So if there is any system collapse, we have to make studies, find out what is the cause of this grid collapse. But you cannot say it is the fault of TCN just like that. But TCN are the one that are managing the grid.
But we hold you responsible. In an environment and in a community, this is a company set up by the government.
Yes, sir.
That is accountable to the Nigerian people.
Yeah.
People are paying for the power. They are even paying more now.
Yes.
And if there are these disruptions, it could be due to so many things. Largely, a lot of people say infrastructure. Is that true?
It's true, sir. You see, sir, the transmission system needs a lot of investment. And for so many years in this country, that sector was neglected. So most of the equipments we are using, some of them are even 50 years old, some 40 years old. So it's not possible for those equipments to work perfectly.
When was the last time we made a major investment in those infrastructure?
The investment is continuous because continuously we build new substations, we buy spare parts and change some of the outdated. But
I'm talking about substantial transmission and grid to home delivery infrastructure. When was the last time we made such substantial infrastructure? Because you are blaming the infrastructure. Some of them you say are 50 years old. So Nigerians would like to know, when was the last time we made a major infrastructure investment in Nigeria?
Yes, sir. This is what I'm trying to explain. You see, it cannot be done once. It's bit by bit. And if you look at the transmission company of Nigeria, most of the funds we are using is from internally generated revenue. There are some projects that are sponsored from the federal budget, but most of the maintenance are carried out by internally generated revenue. So what we are doing, every year we schedule some maintenance. Some of the old equipments, we used to change them, but you cannot do all at the same time. So, but every year we do change some of them.
So, it still has not answered my question, sir. If I ask when we did the major infrastructure, either by measure of procurement or deal agreement in installation, when was the last time?
You see, sir, why it is difficult to answer your question directly is that every year we have new projects where we are building transmission line and substation. Every year we have what we call reinforcement. We go to some stations and change transformers, upgrading. If we have 60 transformers, we upgrade it to 100 so that it carry more weight. The transmission line, we remove the conductor and upgrade it so that there will be no much losses and it will carry more power. So this is something we are doing continuously, but because of the nature of the grid, it will take you a long time before you do everything.
There are issues. You've expressed your frustration at different fora where you said there's a lack of funds, the budget coming is very low, but you are trying to also look for deals with foreign deals so that we can upscale. You've also mentioned the issue of SCADA, and there are those who will say, look, blame the communication system to be able to communicate the grid problem is also faulty and is outdated. that communication, there are a lot of people who say, well, if we had that in place and properly placed, we would have been able to, work against any grid collapse early enough. Have we been able, what are you doing about the SCADA system? What are you doing about such communication system, such that we can be able to guard against when we see or foresee or prospect a possible grid collapse or disruption? Are you working on those kind of communication line?
We are, sir. Presently, we are doing SCADA system for the whole network, and it is funded by the World Bank, and the project will take 2 years to be completed. And now we have done almost 70% of the project. Almost a month ago, we were at Guagualada with the World Bank, where we celebrated the project. So it is almost 70% completed. And once we have the SCADA system, it will reduce the frequency of getting system disturbances. On the transmission line, sir, we are trying to upgrade all our transmission line. We are building more. We know that the government will not have enough money to do all these projects. What we are doing now, there are private investors that are coming to invest to build more transmission line. The Honorable Minister is now working with the presidency to have that approval. This is what we call the super grid. By the time we have it, you will have, even if there is a fault in one transmission line, you can switch to other one so that you have alternative. But now, the type of grid we are running, once you have a problem with a line, you have no other line to switch on to. So this is what we are doing.
No backup, no buffer.
Yes, sir.
So let's come straight to Nigerians tonight. What is our power generating capacity as of today?
As of today, it's almost 13,000, sir.
13,000?
Yeah.
What is our capacity for distribution?
For distribution, around 5,000.
Around 5,000.
5,000.
So so what are we able to produce immediately?
As of now, as the Honorable Minister promised Nigerians that by December, we are going to produce 6,000 megawatts. We have almost done that. 2 weeks ago, we have produced around 5,900. But because the distribution companies are not taking power, that's why we would not reach the peak of that 6,000.
They're not taking power?
They are not taking more than 5,000, sir.
Okay, so we don't have the capacity for them to take more than 5,000.
Yes, sir.
That is, even when we produce 20,000, what they can take, the discos, right?
Yeah.
Is not up to more than 5,000.
For now. But also they need to expand their grid.
And our power supply needs is what capacity?
Our need, actually the highest we had on the grid was 5,800. But you know there are a lot of companies. As
a nation?
Yeah, on our grid. The one
No, I'm talking as a nation. What do you think will sufficiently give us uninterrupted 24 hours power supply in Nigeria?
We need over 20,000 megawatts.
Some people say 25,000.
Yeah, we need over that, 25.
So with the way we are going, is it possible that we can be able to achieve that in 10 years?
It's possible, even before 10 years. Because already I told you that the generating capacity, the installed capacity, as we are talking now, is above 13,000. So by the time you put more generators, you can generate more. Transmission Company of Nigeria, as of today, has the capacity to transmit 8,500. We are doing expansion. We are building more transmission line. We are doing conducting. By the time we do that, our capacity will also improve. The distribution, they have to put more injection substation, expand their grid, so they will also be able to take that.
So the ones that are the remnant of what is we are unable to give to the Nigerian people, where do you take them to?
No, if we have 20, what I'm saying now.
At the moment, you said what we can only transmit is about 5,000, because that is the capacity of our transmission lines, isn't it? But what we are generating is in the region of 6,000. Is that right?
It's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one that is left, if we have almost 6,000, but we cannot do more than 5,000, so there will be a remnant.
If we are generating 6,000,
yes,
and the distribution companies are taking 5,000, automatically the generation will go down because you cannot store the power. So it will go according to the demand. Small by small, it will go back to 5,000 because it's only 5,000 you have at the output.
We have deals with foreign, other countries, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
To give them power.
Yeah.
They buy, we sell.
Yes, sir.
How many of these countries are we supplying?
We supply Togo, we supply Benin, and Niger.
And we supply them consistently?
Yes, sir.
Do they get 24-hour supply and it's consistent?
Yes, they get power from Nigeria on 24 hours basis, and they are paying.
But Nigerians, unfortunately, cannot get 24-hour supply.
Nigerians are getting 24-hour supply.
Where is
it's
that?
Not everybody. Those people that are in Band A, you will see that they get 20 to 22 hours. Either TCN or Discourse, nobody will go and switch off power. It's only when you have a port or something. But some Nigerians are getting 24 hours.
Can you guarantee Nigerians? Because when you say some Nigerians are getting 24 hours, I'm wondering where and how this is happening. I'm wondering which part, is it Abuja alone or Lagos, or where exactly are you supplying?
Band A.
The Band A?
The Band A.
Because the differentiations are across the country, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Band A, B, C, and the rest are across the country.
Every distribution company has Band A, and that is their own priority. And those people get light almost 22 hours to 24 hours.
That's all those who say those projections are inconsistent, engineer. How? Are you aware that those 22, 24 hours that you're talking about, people are still not getting that, despite the fact that they are Band A?
Yes. In fact, it is NAC that came out with this, that is Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. What they say that time is that you will get between 18 hours and 22 hours. But some people may have fault in their area. They may not get that hours. But if there is no fault, nothing, at least they can get at least up to that 22 hours.
Can you guarantee Nigerians that whatever we have today, because if we have consistent power supply in this country, our economy will be jolted back to life.
Yeah.
A lot of things will be better for our economy. In fact, the economy is highly reliant on a lot of people are now looking away from what the institutions are providing and looking at alternatives.
Yeah.
But when do you think Nigerians can get that 25,000 or 20,000 megawatts of power on 24 hours basis and consistently?
You know, you say whether we can get it in 10 years. I'm telling you, sir, we are going to get it in less than 5 years.
That we can get
it
consistent.
Yes.
24 hours
yes.
power supply.
Yes.
We can get it
yes.
in less than 4 years.
The minister they put now, he is looking at what are the problems. He is not doing cosmetic show or whatever. He is looking at the ground. What are the problems? What is he going to do to improve light in this country? So he's looking at the grassroots problem. That's why I'm sure we are going to succeed.
Nigerians, you're talking to Nigerians and you're reiterating what other governments have promised Nigerians, and it's almost unbelievable. Nigerians find it difficult to believe when people promise them power, because we have been promised. I, as an adult, have not experienced 24 hours power supply, and I'm in my 40s. I'm in an up-NEPA generation, and I'm wondering if you are. I don't know if you have experienced 24-hour supply in your own time. The question is that when do we start to believe the government for what they say they will do? We've had several investments in that. This time around, what makes you think that Nigerians should believe what you guys say?
Yes, if you will ask Nigerians honestly, all of them know that there is improvement in power in Nigeria now. When this regime came, from the time Adelabu took over as minister till now, if you tell the truth, there is a great improvement. And this improvement is going to continue.
Although painful improvement. The little improvement you're talking about is painful because Nigerians have had to pay more.
Sir, Nigerians are paying more because to produce electricity is not easy. You can see the exchange rate.
So it's not rocket science.
It's not rocket science, sir.
Other countries that are smaller than us, you look at Egypt, South Africa, Angola, Rwanda. These are countries that are nearly sufficient, and there are some countries are rated 12, 13, 14. But globally, Nigeria is rated badly.
But what I say, sir, yes, electricity is now expensive in Nigeria. We are feeling it is expensive because we are getting it at a cheaper price. If you go to other African countries, you go to Niger, you go to Burkina Faso, you go to Senegal, still now Nigeria is cheaper.
It might offend the sensibility of an average Nigerian when you say that, because Nigerians will now be wondering what exactly is the government giving to its own people. Subsidy removed on petrol. You're talking about subsidies that they're supposed to benefit on something like power that they do not get. They're getting, the subsidy has even been removed from blackout. So when you say we are getting it cheaper, it might offend the sensibility of some Nigerians, don't you think?
Not, sir. I want you to look at the issue very well, sir. All the generation companies are not owned by the federal government. Since when they put PHCN into different companies, it is only the TCN which belongs to the government. Now, all the generation companies are private companies. They buy their own materials, they build their own substations. So the government, is very difficult for the government to intervene on the amount they generate their power. So the government is can only have control on TCN because it's only TCN that is government company. So the other people are private investors.
There are those who will say TCN has failed Nigerians. Are you hoping that you make Nigerians happy soon?
TCN has not failed Nigerians.
But the Nigerians are not getting what they bargained for from their government.
Yes. What I'm saying, sir, people have to understand between TCN and NEPA. When we were in NEPA and PHCN, we are the one doing the generation, the transmission, the distribution, and the marketing. But now we are only doing one leg, which is transmission. So there could be issues on all other sectors, which is the generation and the distribution. But people, because they only know NEPA and they think that TCN is NEPA, and they will put blame on TCN. But TCN is doing their best. And always, what I say in every forum, up to today, nobody will tell you that they have generated light and TCN cannot transmit it. I ask everybody, nobody has that record in Nigeria. All the power that is generated is always transmitted by TCN.
Can you give Nigerians guarantee that we will not have any more power outage in terms of national grid collapse till the end of the year? Is that possible?
Power disturbances can occur unexpectedly. It's a system. It's just like your vehicle. You are using your vehicle for so many years. You can have unexpected breakdown. But what I'm sure in Nigeria is that we are doing our best to make sure that the system is well maintained to make sure that all those disruptions will not happen.
So you cannot guarantee that we will not have any more national grid collapse till the end of the year?
What I want to tell you is this. Grid collapse, the causes,
is out of your hands.
Is differently. A generator, generation station, they can cause grid collapse. Distribution, they can cause grid collapse. Vandalization can cause grid collapse. So it's not in the hands of one person. If we have generators now, one generator that is producing almost 400 megawatts, something happened with their machine and it went off, the frequency will go down and the grid will collapse. If the distribution companies are not taking power, the generators are producing power, transmission company is transmitting power, but the discos are not taking power, that one can also cause grid collapse. Then we have a lot of bundles, especially in the northeast, in the south-south. If somebody will go and bring down a tower, vandalize a tower, and the whole of that transmission line, which is carrying over 600 megawatts, collapse, it can cause grid collapse. So there are a lot of things.
But what has caused the most collapse this year? Out of the 6 or so that have alighted, what has caused the most collapse?
Most of them are tripping of transmission line and generation stations.
Due to aging of those infrastructure?
Like the one that happened on Monday. What actually happened, there is a lightning arrestor that exploded at Oshobo. So that Oshobo-Jeba line tripped, and all the lights on Oshobo went off. That's what caused the grid collapse. Then yesterday, Saturday, there is a line also, Oshobo-Jeba. Then in Jeba, we have an old current transformer. That current transformer catch fire. So when it catch fire, we have what we call protection. That protection, it has to operate so that the fire will not spread in all of the equipments. So by the time it separates, the generation in Kainji, in Jeba was cut off. And Jeba is also a gateway to Kainji. So now Jeba's generation station and Kainji went off, and they are carrying over 700 megawatts. So that's what caused yesterday's problem.
So, you're describing what a lot of people will say in some part of the world. It's alien to them. They don't even know that this kind of system operates any longer.
Yeah.
So are you thinking of alternatives? For example, off-grid power generating systems for Nigeria?
Yes.
We have abundance of sunlight.
Yes.
That is just one alternative.
We are already building it. There is a federal government agency they call REA, which are in charge of doing all this solar grid. We have a lot of off-grid that supply a particular location but are not actually on the grid. So a lot of projects are going on using solar and now also wind to make sure that we have off-grid supply to some parts of the country.
The World Bank has said that Nigeria will require about $3 billion annually to improve its electricity infrastructure. What are you doing to be able to meet up?
Yes, $3 billion annually. We have a lot of donor agencies we are working with. We are working with African Development Bank. We are working with JICA, which is the Japanese fund. We are working with the French, AFD. So, and also the Islamic Development Bank. So we are working with them to see how we can raise money to do all that.
Are they coming through?
They are coming through. And as I told you, sir, there are people who are coming to invest to build transmission line. So this is all part of it.
Private sector. Private
sector.
What happened to the Siemens deal?
The Siemens deal is still ongoing, but it's handled by a company called FGN. It's not handled by Transmission Company of Nigeria, but all the projects they are doing that concern transmission, we're in touch with them and we're working together. If it comes
on stream, how much of power do we hope to get from there? Are we able to get stability?
We will get stability, sir. But what I want Nigerians to understand, the Siemens projects, they are working on transmission and distribution. So they are not bringing generation, but they're expanding the capacity that transmission can will, and the one distribution can will.
Engineer Sule Abdulaziz.
Yes, sir.
One thing you cannot give to Nigerians is a commitment that there won't be any further power grid collapse. But again, what can they go home with tonight as a promise and as a good news?
As a promise, TCN is working hard to make sure that we make our grid more robust and reliable. We are doing all what we can to change all the old and obsolete equipment in the system. And by doing all this, our grid will be a better grid than it is now.
That's a commitment you can give.
Yes, sir.
We should hold you accountable to your words.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Engineer Sule Ahmed Abdulaziz is the MD and the CEO of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed for
Thank you very much, sir.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's switch gears now and talk about another very important issue. And of course, there was a lawsuit that was instituted by some state. The existence and the further operations of the anti-graft agency, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is under threat. The suit was instituted by the Kogi State government and 15 other states, and is contesting the constitutionality of the laws establishing the EFCC. The Supreme Court has scheduled that it will hear that matter on the 22nd of October on these suits filed by the 16th state government challenging the legality of the EFCC. Meanwhile, we have seen the opinions of a prominent senior lawyer and former NBA president, Mr. Olisa Agbakoba, who drew the attention of the National Assembly to constitutional issues relating to law enforcement agencies in Nigeria and factors inhibiting the government's objective of abolishing corruption as stated in Section 13 of the Constitution. Well, in two separate letters, Mr. Olisa Agbakoba wrote to the National Assembly, to the Senate and the House of Reps on a letter dated 14 October 2024, and he has said the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission was an unlawful organization which he believed was unconstitutionally established. He said, quote, I very strongly believe the EFCC is unconstitutionally established. The powers under which it was established go beyond the powers of the National Assembly. The EFCC is an unlawful organization. That's according to Mr. Olisa Agbakoba, a former NBA president. Meanwhile, human rights activist and lawyer Femi Falana has written to the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives to oppose a view expressed by the ex-president of the Bar Association, Olisa Agbakoba, regarding the legal status of the EFCC. To get more clarity and insight into this, I have joining me Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. It's live for us in Lagos. It's good to see you tonight on the program, Mr. Falana. Nigerians would like to know your views because you have said you do not agree with the stance of Mr. Olisa Agbakoba, who says that the formation or the establishment of the EFCC is on a faulty ground.
Well, with profound respect to my very good friend and colleague, Dr. Olisa Agbakoba, it's not a new argument, really. When the ICPC was established in the year 2000, there was a case instituted by the Ondo state government against the federal government, and all the other states were defendants. In that case, the Supreme Court subjected the Establishment Act of the ICPC to a serious constitutional interpretation and came to the irresistible conclusion that by virtue of Section 15, subsection 5, which has imposed a duty on the Nigerian state to fight corruption, the ICPC was properly created by the National Assembly in exercise of its powers under Section 4 of the Constitution. In like manner, the EFCC was also created by the National Assembly to fight other economic and financial crimes. And we must not forget the fact that Nigeria is not operating on its own alone. By the year 2001, Nigeria had been blacklisted by the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, otherwise called Groupe d'Action Financière in French. This body had blacklisted 23 countries for not cooperating enough in the global fight against money laundering. And that each of these 23 countries will have to put in place an agency or a commission to fight money laundering, advanced fee fraud, and other economic crimes. And that was why the EFCC Act was drafted and sponsored by the executive in 2002. As a matter of fact, the law was enacted in 2002. The EFCC was established consequently in April 2023. Again, by 2004, 2003, by 2004, the law was amended to take care of other concerns. For me, the ICPC and the EFCC, like the Code of Conduct Tribunal, have come to state what we should be demanding are measures to make these institutions autonomous, not under the control of any government. And the Supreme Court has maintained rather repeatedly with respect to the EFCC, that, or the EFCC and ICPC, that these are common agencies, that shouldn't be under the control of the federal government. They are common agencies to fight economic crimes in our country, to fight financial crimes in our country, to fight corruption in our country.
So, Mr. Falana, apologies, if I may jump in quickly. There are those who will say, yes, some of these anti-graft agencies have come to stay. They've been established, they've been doing their jobs. But the question will be, is it established in law that the process through which they were established in the first place was faulty? Guarantee that they have been established.
No.
But can we say that next time, are we able to learn that the EFCC, for example, was wrongly or falsely established against the constitution of the federal government, considering the processes through which such an establishment should be put in process in the first place?
I am saying, Sheung, the EFCC and the ICPC were established the same way. It was the executive that sponsored the bill under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration. One was established, the law was enacted in 2000, the other one in 2002, amended in 2004. So it's the same method, i.e. anchored, the two bodies were established in pursuance of the duty imposed on the Nigerian state under section 15 subsection 5, that the Nigerian state, Nigeria shall abolish all corrupt practices and abuse of power.
But Mr. Falana, the legal argument, apologies, sir. Mr. Falana, the legal argument is whether or not the federal government can imposingly establish these without the consent of the state, which according to the constitution has to be carried along. Those are the argument, isn't it, before the Supreme Court?
No, Sheung, the Supreme Court made the point in the case of AG Ondo and AG of the Federation that this duty is imposed on the federal government and the state government. And in other words, state governments are also not prohibited from setting up their own agencies. The Kano state government has done that since the time of, I think, of Governor Shekarawu. And that body is fighting corruption. Even though there are efforts by the federal court in Kano to frustrate the work of the agency, I think Oyo State also has its own agency. Even Lagos State enacted its own law. The body has not been put in place. So the state government are also required to set up their own anti-corruption agencies. If they so desire, these bodies are to work with the EFCC and the ICPC so that the menace of corruption and other economic crimes in our country can be frontally attacked. But you know, this battle is ideological. We are talking of big people, former governors, sitting governors, president, and the rest of them. But nobody is talking of the poor. Today in Lagos, and this has not interested your medium. Today in Lagos, 22 young people were arrested for trying to lay a wreath in memory, in honor of those who were killed in Lekki or in Lagos State during the NSAS protest in 2020. On Tuesday, about 76 Nigerians are going to be charged with treasonable felony for protesting against worsening economic conditions in the country. But it's only when it concerns the rich or the bourgeoisie. Oh, this law meant to fight corruption is illegal. This law meant to fight money laundering is illegal. But I am saying the Supreme Court has made the point. And not just in one case. AG Ondo State and AG of the Federation, Governor Shema and FRN, Dari and FRN, Yame and FRN, and so on and so forth.
Mr. Falana, so apologies. Yeah, the question, and by the way, sir,
properly created to fight.
But by the way, sir,
that's the position of the law.
Yeah, we are covering that matter you mentioned in Lagos and the subsequent release.
Yes.
But I'm making direct reference to section 12 of the Constitution. And there are legs into subsection 1, 2, and if you look at subsection 3, there is the Constitution is very succinct. It says that this section shall not be presented to the president for assent and shall not be enacted unless it is ratified by a majority of all the houses of assembly in the federation. And that is the point that some of these states are furthering in the court to say they were not aware. The federal government went all by itself to procure or to establish this institution, and on that grounds, they are left out in that process, and on that grounds, that establishment is faulty and unconstitutional. Is it possible for us to repair it as a people? Because that is, to some people, ultra-vires.
You can only invoke Section 12 of the Constitution if you are talking of an agreement that has been ratified by Nigeria or by the president on behalf of Nigeria. And the law says such an agreement or a treaty will not become enforced, cannot be enforced in Nigeria unless it is domesticated, unless it's enacted into law by the National Assembly. We're not talking of any treaty here. We are talking of a law, of a bill sponsored by the executive, passed properly by the National Assembly. Nobody has said the required majority did not pass either the ICPC Act bill into law or the EFCC law bill into law. So we're not talking of Section 12. We're talking of Section 15, subsection 5, that has imposed a duty on the federal government, the state government, and local government to fight corruption and abuse of power in Nigeria. That's all. That's it.
Well, in all of this, one thing, apart from the legal arguments in court, the one fundamental thing that we need to look at as a people is whether or not corruption is really being fought. And I love the fact that there is a senator who is now looking at a bill which is, is in other countries like the UK, the source of wealth law, where a Nigerian or a public office holder will have to explain how he's got his wealth. Do you think this is one other way for us to effectively fight corruption in this country, Mr. Falana?
Come back again. When you're talking about federalism, my very good friend, Dr. Agbakoba, has written about what he calls cooperative federalism. It was expanding the theory propounded by the late Justice Nikki Toby in the case of Elufoye and the Federal Republic of Nigeria, when Justice Toby said, in our own environment, our own federalism is a cooperative one. And I'm saying the Supreme Court has further expatiated on this by talking about that these institutions are common agencies. They are not the agency of the federal government. The same thing goes for the police. It goes for the INEC and the State Security Service. There are decisions of the Supreme Court on this matter. But unfortunately, if you take police powers, for instance, I have written extensively on this, that governors our governors have failed to exercise police powers with the president as prescribed by the Constitution. Little for these other agencies. Once the Supreme Court has said, these are common agencies, it behoves on state governments to say, sorry, we want to have our members on the board of this institution. We want to tell the National Assembly, please perform your oversight functions as set out in Section 37 of the EFCC Act, which stipulates that not later than September 30th of every year, the EFCC shall submit its annual report to the two chambers of the National Assembly. This is done every year. The reports are never debated. Now, you also have the board. The EFCC has a 21-member board. Most of them are officials of the government. Director General of the State Security Service, Director General of Intelligence Agency, Governor of the Central Bank, and so on and so forth. It is high time now. We demanded for representation that will reflect the judgments of the Supreme Court, that these are common, that the EFCC is a common agency. If it is a common agency, state governments must have their accredited representatives in the board. Local government should have their members in the board. And of course, civil society organizations. There are 4 members now appointed by the president to that board. We should now move to have these members or civil society members appointed by the organization, nominated by the organizations that are involved. So my own position is that we should take advantage of the law to control these agencies, to monitor the activities of these agencies. And we must never forget the fashion that the staff of ICPC and EFCC are not more than 10,000. And we expect them to monitor the activities of the federal government, 36 state government, and 774 local government. And that is why we should. It's not about, yes, it's good we want side the law, that once you are charged with unlawful enrichment, the onus was on you to prove that your money, your wealth has been earned legitimately. It was also the National Assembly that amended that law to remove that provision. I'm talking of the Supreme Court endorsed that provision in the case of Daudu and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But the National Assembly members, I think in 2012 or thereabout, decided to remove that provision. If the concerned legislator wants to reintroduce that section, that would be very good. But what is important is for Nigerians to own the anti-corruption campaign, because the majority of our people are victims of corruption, monumental corruption.
Mr. Ofalano, let me take you quickly to the issue of the economy, because I know you and I have had conversations on these for a while. But you have asked, and other people have said, that the government, federal government, should reverse some of its policies in the removal of subsidies and maybe focus on some other things. But the World Bank is saying there must be consistencies in the policy direction, and if the federal government tries to reverse some of these policies, it spells doom for Nigeria and its economy for the nearest future. Let me get your view on that position of the World Bank.
So, I can predict here, I can say here, without any fear of contradiction, that the federal government will soon be compelled to review economic policies that are subverting the democratic process, economic policies that are pauperizing our people, economic policies that are increasing poverty in the country. The same World Bank has just revealed, to the embarrassment of the government, that we now have 129 million very, very poor Nigerians, or people they say are dimensionally poor, and 14 million of them have been added in the last 1 year. The same bank is asking the government, please punish the Nigerian people by removing all subsidies. There is no country in the West, and I'm talking of the country that set up the World Bank and the IMF. There's no country in the West today that does not subsidize agriculture, education, and so on and so forth. As we are talking, I'm not sure whether the Vice President is back from Sweden. Sweden has the best welfare policy in Western world today. In fact, in the Norwegian countries now, and I think particularly, no, not Sweden, I think one of them.
Part of the Scandinavian countries, yeah.
In Holland, the country is closing down its prisons because young people are no longer committing crimes. Oh yes. In America today, President Biden has canceled close to 5 trillion student loans, and that is subsidizing education. In Europe, France, Britain, and the rest of them, they are subsidizing electricity, subsidizing gas, and so that people can live a better life. And by the way, Seun, why are our people going to Europe and America to have their children there? Why? Because the future is guaranteed for them. And we also have those laws here that have guaranteed a decent life for our people. We have the National Health Insurance Act in Nigeria. We have the People's Bank Act in Nigeria. We have the Pension Reforms Act in Nigeria. We have the National Housing Act in Nigeria. Now, it is high time we made these laws enforceable in our country, so that the government can be accountable, so that the government can take care
if I may
of
jump
our
in
people.
quickly. Yeah, and I'd like to ask you, the government of the day, for example, will say that it has institutionalized a student loan scheme. It will also say that there is the credit call, the credit facility organization, to be able to give some security for welfare and social security to Nigerians. And they will also say that they are all going all out to give incentives and some very soft packages for the poorest of the poor in our society. But if you are saying that you are joining some of those who are advocating for a reversal of some policies, major would be the petrol subsidy scheme, the removal of that, and also the electricity subsidy, and what we have seen now in the ban and the rise in the levies on those. What can you specifically tell this government that will bring the kind of succor that you are talking about if you truly oppose the World Bank stand? Because the World Bank says that you need to keep helping the poor so that you reduce poverty in the land and do not reverse some of these policies. But in your own view, what are the policies that you think they are not in the interest of the Nigerian people?
So let us take the World Bank and the IMF out of our discussion, because those agencies were set up, the Bretton Woods institutions were set up to underdevelop our countries, developing countries. These institutions impose or rather influence our governments to take loans when you can generate enough funds in your country. These institutions do not contribute to the task of recovering looted wealth from our country so that we can have money for development. All they are saying, let Nigerian poor people tighten their belt, according to them now, for 15 years. They came here in 1986. The World Bank influenced the Babangida military junta to impose the structural adjustment program on our people. We won then. And it didn't work. And the government said there was no alternative to SAP. At the end of the day, the economy was sapped. The currency was floated as we're having it now. And you had a sharp devaluation of the currency. Nigeria has not fully recovered. Later, they apologized. World Bank, you regretted the imposition of structural adjustment program. The same institution is coming back now by asking the government to embrace and impose and implement neoliberal economic policies designed by the same institution. What we are therefore saying, the government must abandon these policies. You must control your currency. I was surprised during the week, the governor of the central bank, Mr. Yemi Cardozo, said, oh, we are helpless. How can you be helpless?
All right,
when
Mr. Falana.
Black, what do you call them?
Mr. Falana.
The alternative market. When they are fixing the dollar.
We are totally out of time, sir.
So the government must take control of the economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Falana, for your time. Always a pleasure having you join us. And that's our show for tonight, everyone. Man, thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimbalwe. Bye-bye.